Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel where we discuss all things living here in the great state of Maryland. And today we are doing our last video here for the calendar year of 2024. It's been a crazy year in the real estate market, and it definitely went by fast as usual. So doing our last video here, and we're talking about a real estate market update for our market here in Central Maryland. So jumping right into it, units sold. So compared to this time last year, we are up slightly, a little over 1%. So we got a few more homes selling currently than did last year. And again, we're starting to or continuing to see prices growing, which is not necessarily expected, but we are seeing that. The average home sale price compared to last year is up a little over 5%, and we've got median home sale price up a little over 6%. Now, looking at kind of moving into 2025, we are seeing in this most recent data released by Maryland Association of Realtors, we've got new listings down over 1,200 units. So over 1,200 less homes, currently recently listed than this time last year. So I think we are going to see, things continue to be a little slow as we kind of get through the holidays and move into, our spring market in 2025. So continuing to kind of expect things to be a little slow. I know I mentioned in the last market update video, and it's kind of the same thing this time, is although our numbers say we're still in a seller's market. So currently we have 1.9 months of inventory. So anything under 3 months, it's going to be a seller's market. The numbers are going to be in the seller's favor. There's going to be more buyers than there are willing and able sellers. So we have the seller's market according to the data, but it continues to kind of feel like this shift into, I would say, a buyer's market, at the very least, a more neutral market. So we are just seeing that slower activity in general. But again, the data says seller's market, but the kind of the vibe and the feeling out there is more neutral to sometimes even a buyer's market. And I think the reason for that is because you've got, a lot of sellers right now still kind of listing their home a little aggressively. So then they start to sit on the market 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you start to see sellers needing to come down, and you start to see buyers being more aggressive on listings of that nature when they start to sit a little bit. So I guess we'll just jump quickly into, because that's a good segue here, as far as what to expect if you are a seller and if you are a buyer in this market. So if you are a seller, it's still a great time to sell a home right now. You've got, as I mentioned just a minute ago, you've got more buyers in the marketplace than willing and able sellers. So this is a nationwide stat, but you've got 40%, nearly 40% of Americans who are homeowners who do not have a mortgage on their home. So what does this create for a lot of home sellers out there? Is they're not desperate. They are willing to, time things right. They're willing to, maybe stay on the market a little longer than they otherwise would to get the price that they want. So if you are a home seller, still a great time to sell, because you've got kind of the market in your favor. But you've got to be, as a home seller, you do have to be very aware of pricing these days. So if you are looking at, comps pushing 6 months, or a little later, that is not necessarily a good indication of today's price. So you've got, buyers being, a lot more due diligence going into pricing, a lot more awareness when it comes to overall cost that I'm seeing with home buyers these days. So if you're a home seller, still a great time, but really nailing your list price out the gate is very important. If you do that, you're still going to sell usually within 1 to 2 weeks with a couple offers. So we're still seeing that for home sellers. If it's high, if a seller lists high, that's where we're starting to see those sellers on the market 30, 60, 90, 120 days. And we're starting to see those price reductions, and of course buyers coming in around the 30-day mark and over, being much more aggressive on asking for credits, quote unquote lowball offers. So we're starting to see that a lot more too. So if you're a seller, those are some things to be aware of. If you're a home buyer, we are seeing a lot more opportunity for home buyers out there, when it comes to seller credits and to put towards your closing costs, as mentioned, kind of before on the seller side. So if you're a home buyer, just being aware, of exactly where that pricing is. So this is what I'm doing with a lot of my home buyers, is we are really analyzing the price heavy up front, because we want to know, especially that first weekend on a property, is this price right? Because if so, this thing could still sell very quickly. If it's priced a little high, then there's a lot more of an expectation that that property could sit around for a while. and that there's a good chance that you can be more aggressive on a property like that. So if you're a home buyer, knowing that there's more opportunity for seller credits out there to lower your overall cost to get into a home, but also being aware based on pricing that homes can still sell fast if they're priced right for the condition that they are in. All right, next, I want to just touch on interest rates. It's always an interesting topic and a popular topic for people out there. So interest rates today, currently, looking at a conventional 30-year mortgage, we are looking at right around 7%. This is the national average from a resource that I follow. So, of course, you're going to see some lenders, beating that by a little bit. You're going to see some lenders probably be over that by a little bit, depending on the bank, depending on their, criteria and overall consumer profile as well. So there's a lot that goes into that. But and then I do like to make people aware too, because I do speak to home buyers, and sometimes they will mention a particular rate that a lender mentions, and I've heard something in the fives, a good amount lately, and I always just cautious, I always tell buyers to be cautious with that and to look, ask more questions, because that's a very low rate. So it's possible, very possible at that rate, as an example, that there's going to be points involved. So purchase spending money to get the rate lower than it would be at no cost. So just kind of digging deeper, but at a national average, conventional mortgage right now is looking at 7%, and you've got your government loans, which is VA, FHA, USDA, things like that, right around 6.5. So you always have those government loans a little lower than conventional for whatever reason. So just being aware, like that's where the market rates are at. If you are being quoted or seeing rates significantly lower than that, I just always recommend digging deeper, asking more questions, and finding out why that is. Because if you're looking at a traditional no cost, no point interest rate, that's where they're at today. Being aware that interest rates are tied to the bond market, they're moving around daily, is something that's helpful to know. So if you're not actively in the market seeking a property, then what a lender tells you today is not necessarily going to be indicative of what you can get when you do sign a contract. So those mortgage lenders are really only able to guarantee you a rate once you have a contract of sale on a home, where they go and they lock that interest rate with an investor, and they're able to guarantee that rate at that time. But other than that, they're really just telling you what you could get today at that moment if you were to have a contract to purchase a home at that moment. So something to be aware of with interest rates currently. And then lastly, just want to touch on inventory again, because I get so many questions on, hey, when are more homes coming? What can we expect? Are we going to see, this kind of boom in inventory come springtime? And it's something that, of course, nobody really knows. I'm expecting it to stay slow for a while. And the reason, part of that is one of the things I mentioned before, is you've got, nearly 40% of American homeowners who don't have a mortgage. So you don't have you don't have a lot of desperate home sellers out there. So they're kind of just, a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines, just kind of waiting for things to be more affordable, more advantageous, for them. So I'm expecting it to stay slower. I'm not expecting to see a ton of inventory, because I just, real estate in general, the real estate market in general is it's a big Titanic. It moves very slowly. We don't see things shift overnight like we can in other markets, such as the stock market and all those different things. So expecting things to stay slow, and I'm expecting inventory to tick up over the long term. I think it might be something that's going to happen very slow. Of course, I could be wrong, so we're always paying attention to these things and paying attention to inventory rate and things like that. But if you are thinking of selling, if you are thinking of buying, I think it's best to kind of be conservative on this and just expect things to be slower, to not see a ton of inventory, super quickly. I think that's going to come down the road, but I do think it's going to take time for these things to shift. So when it comes to inventory, kind of expecting there to be that pinch on inventory for a while, not seeing a ton of homes coming overnight, I think is the best expectation if you are a home seller, if you are a home buyer coming into this market soon. As always, I am a licensed realtor here in the great state of Maryland. If you ever have any real estate questions or would like to discuss what it looks like for you to buy or sell a home, please feel free to reach out however you are most comfortable, and we will see you in the next video.